Introducing health and wellness advocate, veteran international real estate investment expert, author and speaker, Adiel Gorel.
Health tips, fitness tips, nutrition and well-being, world-class experts, all right here on my podcast, The Adiel Gorel Show. Hi everyone, it's a great pleasure to be here with you again today. Very excited. We have Dr. Lise Janelle with us. I have a feeling this is going to be very, very useful. Liz, it's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you, Adiel. I'm sure we can have fun. That seems to be your brand.
I would love that very much. Learning and having fun at the same time. You can't ask for more. So, just to get started, if you can tell us your own story, history, not only do I find it fascinating, but we'll get to learn about your passion and what you do. So share with us a little bit about your background.
So
and your
my
passion.
background and passion, I was a holistic chiropractor for 22 years. And I was pretty busy. I used to see about 8,000 patient visits a year. So I got to see all kinds of cases and permutation and things. And quite early on in my career, I saw how I could have 10 people with similar condition, like similar low back condition. 8 of them would get better, and 2 of them, no matter what, nothing was changing. So that sent me on the quest to understand, what else can I do to help my clients? And I ended up meeting Dr. Scott Walker, who taught me NET, neuro-emotional technique, which is a great technique for chiropractors to help. But you can also use it to get unblocked from your belief. And the same year, by coincidence, I met Dr. John DeMartini, and I ended up combining both of these methods, the power of gratitude with mind-body work, to create a method called the Heart Freedom Method. And since 2004, I've been a full-time coach. And my goal is to reach millions of people. And luckily, Jack Canfield, the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, has asked me to write a book with him about my method, because he says it's the missing link he'd been looking for in 50 years of doing transformational work. So it comes with good recommendations, and I love it. It's powerful. It can change people's lives really quickly.
So when you talked about the 10 people with the low back situation, and maybe 8 of them got better and 2 didn't. The 2 that didn't, it had to do with certain emotional and mental blockages.
Yeah, some of them, yes. Some of them it had, as a holistic chiropractor, my premise was that I used the health triangle. So a person's health is always connected to the structural, the biochemical, and the emotional. So sometimes through this method, I can check different things. So someone can have low back pain because they are allergic to gluten and it's irritating their bowels, and the nerve connection to the bowels is L5, which is your lower back. And so now by, discovering this, you can actually help cure the low back condition. But often it's also, pardon me?
It makes some...
But often it's also emotions. It's... we store emotions in different places of our body, and when you get you heard of Pavlov's dog? That is something fun we could actually do with the listener. All right, so if you're driving, don't close your eyes. Otherwise, I'd like you to imagine me right now in front of you with a nice juicy lemon. So it's nice, juicy. You can kind of smell it because it's so fresh. And I'm cutting it in half.
Okay.
And it's squirting and you can smell it. And I take that half and I cut it in half again. So now we have a quarter of a lemon. And I'm asking you, bite right now. Take a bite out of that lemon. Are you salivating?
Yes, I am.
It's
just
funny.
like the dog.
I've said this story many times, and every time I'm salivating. Why? Because a lemon is very intense, it's like when you see little babies who for the first time it tastes like ooh, so it's more easily stored in our physiology, and we create a conditioned response. So most people are not aware, but some scientists believe that up to 90 to 95% of what we do is actually pre-programmed in us. We think we're running the show, but we're not. Relatively speaking, your mind that wants something is the size of a football, and your subconscious mind that's there to keep you alive, the football field. So imagine the difference. So who's going to win? And it impacts our health and impacts our success. Like, I love working with high-level athletes. I have taken some of my clients who were like, one, she was university level, competing, having a hard time winning at the provincial level, and working with me, she saw right away the changes, and she won the world championship at university level. I have another client on the Olympic level, athlete who hadn't placed in 2 years, and after working with me, she ended up on the podium. So, like, people are not aware that if you have associated, like, it is so amazing how often being successful subconsciously, and I always use this, so it's a good visual, my yin and yang. So when subconsciously we have associated more pain than pleasure, or more danger than safety to something we want, our subconscious mind makes us do the right thing at the wrong time, the wrong thing at the right time, just to put, the foot on the brake so we don't get those things that we want. And it frustrates people because they think, maybe I'm just not born to be lucky. No, that's not the truth. We just have to find the reason why this is happening for you.
So when you were talking about this example with the lemon, and you said that a lot of our reactions are actually pre-programmed by now, it made me think about the animals. I mean, we started by you mentioning, the Pavlov dog. Now we know dogs and foxes and most animals are born with almost everything pre-programmed, ready to go. That's why they can function day one. They can run around day one. Humans get the luxury, supposedly, of being an empty slate, and we grow very slowly. So we think, just like you said, we are in control. However, the thought that came to me while you were talking was, we get this scar, and this fear, and this rejection, and this, that. And by the time we are a certain age, probably not very old, we ourselves are like an animal in the sense that a huge amount is already pre-programmed. Now, there could be a way to unprogram stuff, and that's, I think, what we're talking about. But that gave me this kind of a thought. So let's define the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind has been mentioned, used everywhere. So let's go with your definition.
Well, the subconscious mind is the system that's in place to keep us alive. Like, if as a little kid, I remember my little brother was 3 years old and he wanted to touch the element on the stove. That's what, bright red. And I caught him just before 3 times in a row. The last time, I guess he has to learn. So the last year on it, it hurt. He never, ever, ever tried. So now he had associated. So you're right. A lot of what happens is, like, babies are constantly checking what we're doing, and they're learning a lot of patterns from what we're doing, how we're responding to them. Like, this is what I have from doing this literally with thousands of people. I see that there are 2 stages to human development. There's the unconscious, asleep, and infantile stage, and there's the conscious, awake, and mature stage. Everybody goes through stage 1, but not everybody makes it to stage 2. And the difference between stage 1 and stage 2, so in stage 1, we get a sense of self from the way the world reacts to us. If the world reacts to us in a way we like, I'm king of the world, I'm queen of the world, I'm amazing, I can have anything I want. But when the world does not react to us the way we want, we start to create stories, and these stories are not the truth. It's not because you're crying and your mom was asleep and didn't hear you that something is wrong with you. It's not because you're unworthy of love that She didn't come. And we create these stories, and some of them help us. Those ones I don't touch, but some of them, they are powerful drivers in stage one. I believe that each and every one of us gets the drivers that we need, and we create stories. So let's say you go to school one day, your best friend is not your best friend anymore because there's a kid there that's got a better toy than yours. So now you start associating, bigger toys, better toys, more friends. So what do you do in life? You strive to have the best toys and everywhere so that you can have the friends. Or you were mommy's little helper, and you saw how happy she was when you help her because you have little brothers and sisters, and your mom is tired. So now you associate being a good little helper with making people happy and having value, now at the detriment of yourself. So we connect with this, but my work aim has, because I also call that the boot camp. And there's another metaphor I created, is that there are basically 3 boot camps. The first one, I call that the musical boot camp. Okay, so your childhood is easy, not many challenges, but when you graduate from this boot camp, you're not really equipped for life. So now you have a harder time getting through life. Then there's what I call the athletic boot camp. You still support and challenge, more than in the musical boot camp. You still have the opportunity of creating stories about yourself, but it's a pretty good boot camp. And then we have the Navy SEAL boot camp. And the Navy SEAL boot camp is pretty good because, if you survive Hell Week, you're a superhero. The problem with the Navy SEAL boot camp is that things were so intense, we often think something must have been wrong with me for having had this experience. And it's absolutely not true. It was just a boot camp. So what we need to do is we need to, that's why the Heart Freedom Method is a great tool, because whenever you move forward, so let's say with you're a speaker and you go on stage and you help people and you entertain but educate at the same time, but maybe you have a ceiling within yourself or what you can do. As you move forward, you feel it as a resistance inside of you. And we have 3 clues that we have a subconscious belief working against us. Number 1, you know what needs to be done, but you're not doing it, the famous procrastination. The second one is you do what needs to be done, but oh man, it really uses a lot of your energy. You really have to have lots of willpower. It's exhausting. Number 3, you do everything right, but you keep getting the opposite results to what's happening, to what you want. So what happens is that in stage 1, all of these are creating you to react, to run away from pain towards pleasure. So the boot camp is super useful. You need it in stage 1 until one day you go, you know what? I think there's a better way of living. So now we guide you into stage 2. And this difference between stage 1 and stage 2 is in stage 1 you get your sense of self from the way the world reacts to you. But in stage 2 you are conscious. So now you don't let the subconscious mind drive you the same way anymore. And I talk a lot, but that's going to set the stage. So I like this visual because it's a really good visual for what it means to be successful in life. So this is the yin also, which represents the female principle of listening. Whether you're a man or a woman, you have that. So your heart wants you to know 2 things. The first thing your heart wants you to know is you're worthy of love. And the second thing it wants you to know is admit your dreams and aspirations from your heart, not from your head, not from your gut, but from your heart. That demands that you be awake, not in reaction in stage 1. And then it's about organizing your time to give your heart what it wants. And that's how you feel truly successful. But on your way to making this happen, you're going to feel those inner resistance. So that's the game we need to play to be fully integrated in stage 2. I call stage 2 heaven on earth. Stage 1 is the boot camp or hell on earth. So the idea is to move us so we consciously create a life from inspiration. So here you live from inspiration, and from here, from fear. You run away from pain towards pleasure. So it's a long answer to your question, but for me, the subconscious mind is not the enemy. You just need to be aware that it was there and it was necessary for you to drive you in stage one, but it will hit a plateau. You won't, like, somebody can make $1 million a year, and for other people they think, he's successful or she's successful, but truly that person believes I should be making $10 million a year. But we will hold ourselves back to the ceiling, to the subconscious belief that what is safe for us versus what's not.
I want to go back to when you said one of the ways that we can see the subconscious is working against us is we know something needs to be done, but we procrastinate. Now, today, we are surrounded by tools that make the procrastination a lot more fun. We all, pretty much most of us, have this device which is full of ways to procrastinate which are unbelievable. We have a bigger device usually hung on the wall somewhere with infinite amounts of movies and shows that even if we watched 24/7, 365, they make more shows at a faster rate. So those make procrastination so much more rewarding. So it seems like, given that, the hurdle that we have to surmount is higher now with all of those distractions.
Yeah, but it depends on how inspired you are. Because let's say you're a parent and you love your kid, and your kid is crying in the middle of the night and you're tired. Are you going to get up? Most likely you will. Why? Because your kid is so much more important than your fatigue to anything else. That's why it's important to create a statement of purpose for our life that's so important to us that you don't need discipline. You just need, you go, all right, like for myself, I'm pretty sure for you too, what you're doing is so inspiring that when you don't do it, it feels wrong. And then you watch yourself and you go, wow, I really, really want this from my heart. I feel fulfilled when I do these things. But look at me, I'm not doing it. So that's why the heart freedom method is a really good tool, because then you do the heart freedom method and now that resistance is gone and now it's much easier to move forward. All of a sudden, because when you're doing these actions that feel really good in your heart, you have the choice between that or watching TV or being on social media, and the other ones are not satisfying anymore. The only reason why they were satisfying before is because you felt it was keeping you safe. Like, for example, that was so shocking. I was telling you about the Olympic skier. She came to see me because she had not placed in 2 years. So I test her on I want to win. And lo and behold, subconsciously, we found, it takes me 10 minutes to do this. We found out that when she was 7 years old, she was already winning a lot, but her brothers were not. So her mom was hiding her medals and her trophies not to make her brothers feel poorly. So now as an adult, your teammates can feel like siblings. And so now you find all kinds of reasons not to train. You rather hang around at the pub, instead of doing those things that would make you win. But deep down, you really want, if you're an Olympic level skier, for sure you want to win. But subconsciously, she didn't want to win. She was doing other things than what she needed to do. But like she says, I have a clip from her, it's just, at that level, 1,000th of a second can make you win or lose. And she says, you're going to lean back instead of forward. You're going to, So we're constantly, this is what I find, I love doing this. Because when I'm helping someone live full on in stage 2, where they are consciously creating an amazing life. My clients, they know, because they go, I want to do this, Lise, but instead I'm doing that. Or I keep organizing everything and it's perfect, it's like if I give you a recipe to make a cake, if you follow the recipe, you get the cake. But when subconsciously you follow the recipe that your coach told you need to be doing, but you always get the opposite results, that tells you there's something wrong in the ingredients. So now you need to pay attention. So you don't need to do this all the time. You do it when you feel like, look at that. I'm going this way, but this is happening. Let's take the time to find out which story is holding me back. And then you get rid of it. It's fun. It's like you have a report, you're supposed to do this report, but all of a sudden, instead of taking half an hour, it's taking you 3 hours. And you really have to push on it, and you use ChatGPT to give you ideas. You want to go eat a bag of cookies or a pint of ice cream because it's not feeling good. So when you see those clues, now you know you have a tool that's available for you.
Yeah, so that was really a great illustration, but I want to go back to the beginning of your example with the Olympic level skier. You said something rather quickly. You said, I tested her on I want to win. Can you expound on that sentence?
Well, when people come to see me and they're not able to attain their goals, I will test them on different, we call that statements. So through the method that I have, I can guide the person and we can find like the moment when the belief was created. That's part of the magic of doing the heart freedom method. So you can test, I'm ready, willing, and able to win. And interestingly enough, sometimes you're ready, but you're not willing. But you're able. Sometimes you don't want to. Sometimes, and this is the most interesting one, is like, when I work with people and they don't know where they want to start, there are two statements that I bet 100% on it. We all have a story. I love myself. Most people subconsciously, it's extremely rare. I think in thousands of people I might have met one person. Because of stage one, when the world doesn't react to us the way we want, we create stories. Because for me, like if I gave you a baby, is a baby worthy of love? Is the toddlers and the throes and the terrible twos worthy of love? Is a teenager worthy of love?
Absolutely.
At 20. So at what point did we stop being worthy of love?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking of one of the cliches, but it's not really a cliche. In many cases of divorce, the young children believe the parents divorced because of them. Because I was a bad girl, I was a bad boy, I didn't put my toys in my room, that's why my parents are separating. That's a major story.
What you're saying is exactly true. It's like we don't stop being worthy of love because our parents divorced. We stop being worthy of love because we decided. We made up a story that something was wrong with us. What you're saying is really wise. And what's interesting, when I work with women and parents divorce and I test them on I'm worthy of love or I love myself, so often a woman will believe that their parents divorced because she was not sweet enough or pretty enough. And if I test a man
isn't it?
and his parents divorced, often the story is because I was not smart enough to figure out how to keep them together. And it's like I don't make this up, this is from my own laboratory working with people. You start to see patterns. And what's interesting is often whatever we judge was the reason why we were unworthy of love, we end up recreating in our own life. And I believe you can see patterns, and it's fascinating. You see them over and over again. And then the beauty of if you end up divorcing and you have kids, I asked the person, so are your kids worthy of love even though you're divorcing? And they go, for sure. I said, so why wouldn't you? And they're like, wow. So that moment is often very important for people because anything we do not love, which means being able to see the pros and the cons to it, we either attract, become, or create over and over and over again. So we create patterns. That's what I love deciphering. I love figuring out. Like yesterday, I have a client and he's a commercial real estate man and he works like with, maybe $30 million, $40, $80 million. And he's got a bunch of things he's supposed to be doing, but he's not doing it. And he, like, for the last 6 months, he says, Lise, I should have come and seen you before. He says, but I knew 6 months ago that I should be doing this, but I have not been doing it. So when he was 30 years old, his own father lost their house. His wife left, moved to Poland. My client was coming back from working somewhere else. He ended up living with his father and his sister in a one-bedroom apartment. And his father was 55 years old, losing everything. But his father was dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars. My client is dealing with millions of dollars. But all of a sudden he realized, oh my goodness, I'm recreating the same story as my dad. So when you look at it, I love it because you can see the big picture. After you understand patterns, it's so easy to find the subconscious reason why you're not doing the things that would be good for you.
I mean, so many books, workshops, resources talk about romantic relationships. Okay, so I mean, romantic relationship, almost by definition, implies two people. But if even one of those people walks around believing he or she is not worthy of love, where is there going to be room for another person? I mean, why are we even talking about that? Let's love that person. Let's love yourself. That seems to be, so there are so many couples in relationships and they're trying to, you fill my hole. No, I fill your hole. You make me whole. No, you need to make me whole. And of course, in an ideal world, we should be whole before we
Wow,
meet.
yeah. I created a program called Soul Worthy Love because I really wanted to bring that to the forefront. Exactly what you're saying is that, people look for a soulmate. So I know that if I want to sell a lot of programs on romantic life, I would call it soulmate. Because people have this illusion that I'll find this person who will take the whole out of me and fulfill me and will live happily ever after. And that's baloney. Because if you have two happy people together who are best friends, that's the way to go. If you have two miserable people together, that's not going to go so well. And if you have one person who's happy and one person who's miserable, that creates a lot of drama. So the more we're like you just said, like if you're connecting with your own heart because you feel worthy of love, then you can connect with somebody else's heart. But if you don't even have your own connection here, how can you expect to ever be able to find love? And most people are scared to be in love. Because why? Because they have instead confused infatuation with love. So that's why I love the yin and the yang, and I use it for everything because it gives a really good visual. Because when you meet someone in the beginning, it's amazing. Everything is perfect, the way they smell, the way they move, like even if they fart, they're exciting. But that usually happens the more we are desperate, the more we feel unworthy, the more we feel we're not cool enough, I'm not financially secure enough, or I don't have enough love in my life, nobody will ever love me. The more desperate we are, the more we're going to find someone and be blind to the other side and be putting them on a pedestal. So as soon as you put someone on the pedestal, you end up in the gutter. And now you feel anxiety. Now it's scary. And that's why, for me, love is not an emotion. Love is our state of being. It's our essence. It's who we are. So the more we love who we are, the safer we feel in relationship. Because if we meet someone and this person is really not a good person, you don't stick with them. But if you're desperate, you stick with them. You don't want to see, the things that are not working. That's how you get yourself in trouble. Because in a nutshell, a romantic relationship is to be able to find your best friend with chemistry. If you can find your best friend with chemistry, after that it's commitment to making it work that's going to make it work.
I mean, based on everything we said so far, one of the reasons people may be afraid to fall in love is if you walk around feeling like you are not lovable, but then you found somebody with a great chemistry and it's the initial stage, and you're basically giving them power over you. No wonder it's scary to fall in love, because with one phone call they can crush you. With one action they can crush you. But if there is self-love, they can't crush you. They say, well, they just did something really nasty, too bad for them. Yes, I'm hurt, but I love myself. But if you don't, you've given your power, you handed over your power to them by falling in love.
Yeah, I wrote a little checklist. It's called the Happy Relationship Checklist. And there are 5 factors to look for if you want a consciously loving relationship. Number 1, be with someone who wants to be with you. It's amazing the number of people who go after someone who told them, I know, I'm just out of a relationship, I'm not ready, I want to be single for a while. And then it becomes like the game is to get them to change their mind so they can feel like, I changed the mind of this person, I'm worthy of love. So if someone tells you they're not ready,
the chase.
Do not continue, because it's a dangerous kind of addiction afterward. The second part, and then it goes with what you were just saying, the second part is it's your responsibility to never give your heart on a silver plateau until you know whether or not this person is a good person. Like, does this person has a reputation of being a good person? How do they speak about their exes? When they go and get stuff with their family, are they there for their family, or do they go running? How do they treat the waiter or the waitress at the restaurant? Are they respectful? Because do not give your heart to someone who's going to crush it. It's our responsibility. But sometimes we're so desperate, we just want them because they look good and they have a nice car or whatever, and we go for them when they're not the right friend. Number 3, be with someone who has similar core values. Like if you love learning and growing, you like listening to podcasts like this, but this person feels threatened whenever you want to, grow, that's not going to work. If you want 10 kids and they don't want any, that's not going to work. Like, you need to understand what is important to me that a friend won't be able to give to me, but that I need in my mate. Like, I'm my core values. So that's why it's important to know who you are, because love won't be enough after a while. Number 4, someone who understands all relationships will face challenges. And if you actually use it to grow through them, like the Heart Freedom Method is amazing for that. It really allows you to grow in love and wisdom. For me, actually, a romantic relationship is a spiritual evolutionary tool, because the only way you're going to be able to be happy in a relationship is when you connect with your own heart, like you said, and the heart of somebody else. And it's about, for me, God is love. So if you can learn how to love, like, this is a high spiritual achievement. So the commitment to making it work will make it work. And then the last one is a good sexual connection, whatever that means for you. Often we put 5 in 1 and we cross our fingers and we hope the other 4 are there. But that's the way backwards to making this happen, and that depends. I've had couples who didn't like sex. Either one of them didn't like sex. They like to cuddle and hugs, and that's all they want. That's perfect. And then there are couples who are highly sexual together. That's perfect. But when there's a person that's highly sexual and not, the other one is not, that's when we need to learn to find a middle for both, so that, one person's need is not more important than the others. Both people are important in a relationship.
Well, actually, I would like to even make a distinction about that thing. They don't like sex, but they like to cuddle and hug a lot. Well, cuddling and hugging is sex. I mean, if I talk for 1 second about the sliver of the population, which is still a very big sliver, who are heterosexual, well, you cuddle, that's usually what you do with a man and a woman. Or if you're gay, you don't. Yeah, but cuddling is a sexual activity.
Without the orgasm,
Holding
that's all I'm
hands is
talking
actually,
about.
Yeah, but the orgasm can come in so many, whatever it is. There are some definitions of that also that could be very skewed. and some people carry shame from religious, again, stories galore. But I agree with everything you say. It makes perfect sense. I have a question for you. Since a lot of the stories develop in what you call stage one, would it make sense to develop a channel or a pathway towards meeting your younger self, your boy, your girl self, and being in touch with them and becoming a mentor slash parent to that young
Well, it's
you?
actually part of my heart freedom method. When we find the moment when the belief was created, make sure that we go deep, with the younger self, and we show the truth of the situation, and we find actually gratitude for the challenge. Like, the challenge is always super important. It's like in the olden days, and if you remember in the olden days, the spaceships, you had these gigantic rockets, and they would be two-stage fuels, and then they will have the capsule on top. So the first stage fuel would push and then disconnect, and then the second one would push and disconnect, and then the capsule would be in the stratosphere. So if you imagine that your stage one is like the catalyst that gets you to react, because you're unconscious, you don't know where you're going, you need a mechanism to get you going. So once you start looking at everything that's ever happened to you as a catalyst that was moving you in a direction, and now the only thing you need to do is let go of the illusion that something was wrong with you for this event to happen, then you're free to go into the stratosphere. Otherwise, what happens if the fuel stages did not disconnect? The whole thing comes falling flat on planet Earth. So the key here is to become very conscious of that and start looking back. And just like you said, you're already connecting with this, is that when we find a moment when the conditioned response was created, you become the cheerleader, the mom, the dad, the friend to your younger self, and you see the truth of the situation, and then you find the benefit in having had this event. And what would have been the drawbacks actually if this challenge had not happened? Because you know what? I've asked this question to thousands of people, because sometimes I do public speaking too, and I teach seminars. Say, raise your hand if you've never had huge challenges. And guess what? And all of those people, only once, there was a young girl, she raised her hand and she says, me, and I'm scared because I don't know what's going to happen when I know I face a challenge. So if we're a smart human being, we're going to realize that the name of the game is not to try to only have fun events. The name of the game is, how am I going to use the challenges to my advantage and the support to my advantage? Because both in a way are necessary in your stage one, in guiding you and helping you to rise. And then you need to disconnect. After a while, you cannot be driven by fear and guilt and all the emotions. You need to move into stage two, where you're using your heart, or using inspiration, when you're using love for yourself as your fuel, because that's when your capsule goes into the stratosphere. That's when you experience heaven on earth.
I suspect that even that one girl out of the thousands has had challenges. She just had a filter in her own mind, not classifying them as challenges. She was a little bit like a Teflon personality. She just didn't look at them as challenges.
Like, it was really interesting. One day I had this new client, and she sat in front of me, and she's like 42 years old, and she goes, I'm 42 years old. I can't sleep at night. I'm full of anxiety. I don't know what I want to do in my life. My mom and my dad love me. My grandpa and my grandma lived in my house and loved me. My aunt and uncle live next door and love me, and I'm still miserable. So a lot of people think that a great life is one where you don't have challenges, but a great life is one that you use to your advantage, whatever is happening. And I have a corny story, but it's the perfect corny story. One day the scientist is observing a butterfly coming out of a cocoon, and it's a huge struggle. It takes hours and hours. So to be nice to the butterfly, cuts the cocoon open. But by doing this, the butterfly has nothing to struggle against. The wings are weak, it can never fly, and it dies like that. So once we start looking at everything that's happening in our life as a way for us to grow stronger, building wings, so we can fly away. And this is what I tell. If you're listening to this right now and you're a parent and your little kid come to see you because they're upset about something, tell them the story, the butterfly in the cocoon story. And ask them, how is this making your wings stronger? And I love you so much, I want you to have strong wings. So tomorrow, even though you don't want to go downhill skiing, I'm going to challenge you into doing it because I know I believe in you. Or I know you don't want to speak in front of the class and it's scary, but I believe in you. Your wings are going to be strong and I love you so much. I want you to have an amazing life and we're going to keep building your wings. And once, at our age, nobody's in charge of doing this. Just like you said, like it's up to us now to look at ourselves and want the best out of ourselves. And when we feel challenged, instead of going, oh, what's wrong with me for this to happen? No, because I'm worthy of love, why is this happening to me? How am I going to use this to my advantage?
The silver lining, and of course you hope that when you tell the kid, you need to speak in front of the class because it's going to make your wings stronger, he doesn't respond and say, but Red Bull gives me wings. You don't want to hear that back. So you talk about the effect of a closed heart as opposed to an open heart on your physical body. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. One of the reasons actually I became a coach after being a chiropractor for 22 years, and I loved being a chiropractor, is because I realized that when people are happy, they don't get sick as often, and if they get sick, they heal a lot faster. Because having gratitude in your heart, having love in your heart, feeling inspired and wise brings homeostasis. And homeostasis means that it allows all the systems of your body to equilibrate in a way that maximizes your health. So, cortisol levels go down. The cortisol creates inflammation, and with inflammation in the body, you end up more likelihood with having cancer, with having heart attacks, with arthritis, like all kinds of ailments come from having inflammation. A poor diet will also increase your inflammation. Not moving enough will increase inflammation. But when you're in your heart, it's the best way of increasing your vitality. All the cells of your body react to love and gratitude. And you will see, if you meet older people, on average, the happier people who are old, elderly, they're a lot healthier than the people who are miserable.
It's very true, and there are also, you can even see it and hear it all around. I had a meal with a friend who is 20 years younger than me. They seem fine and good and everything, but I was very surprised in the conversation how they use the words, well, I'm old. They're 20 years younger than me. To me, they look very young. They could be my kid in a way, but they kept saying they really meant it. Well, I'm old, so I'm old. Well, obviously, just those beliefs will not be very fruitful.
And I find that when someone is inspired, when you have something greater than yourself to live for, it makes you feel younger longer. Because let's say you have a goal and then you reach your goal. Okay, now what? Now you feel old because this thing that I've been looking forward to making happen has happened. What do I do? That's why having a statement of purpose for your life that's all encompassing, not only about your career, but about all the different areas of your life. Giving yourself a big why. I find those people look younger, feel younger, more vitality. It's fascinating. And I'm sure even if you meet, let's say, you meet a family member, someone has died in the family, and you look at people, like right away, their face hangs down, there's like a different energy. Like when we're not grateful, it shows right away. It's super important to be happy.
Well, there's a bit of a paradox for me in my line of work. I actually help a lot of people retire sooner. Well, the notion of retirement carries in itself almost the opposite of that why. Because people can say, no, I'm going to travel, and yeah, okay, fine. But still, the working towards something, let me ask you, okay? We haven't met yet on a social level, I hope we do, but I'm positive if I asked you, Liz, suppose you now came into an amazing windfall of money, huge amount, would you retire? You'd probably think I'm crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't retire.
Right? Right. Because I can hear it in your voice, I can see it in your eyes. There is a mission that you have. So, I mean, when somebody says, I can't stand what I do and I can't wait to retire, well, you know, there are many correlations about retiring age and then death and then all of those things. So those things are funny too. Now, there's one question I have because I don't want to not ask you this question. When you told me about the Olympic level skier and how you went and you explored her do I want to win place in herself, I got a little jealous because I felt, hey, I want Lise to explore it with me too. Where are my beliefs that are negative? And I'm sure there will be many. So now, how can people get access to that, to what you do? Do you do one-on-one? Do you have a website? Do you have courses? Do you have books? Please tell us what there is that we
I
can
have
use.
many different products to help many people on different budgets. But if you go to heartfreedommethod.com, you can find out about me.
Okay, let's do it slower. Heart was clear.
Freedom.
What was the next word? Freedom. Heart
.com.
Freedom Method.
You can also go on
.com,
drlisejanelle.com and there's all kinds we can do one-on-one, we can do group coaching calls, we can do seminars, I have all kinds of possibility that, if you go on the website, you can just sign up for an exploration call and we can figure out what's the best thing for you.
So you do one-on-one, I assume by Zoom, because of course,
I'm in Toronto.
Where are you located?
So yeah, I have people in Toronto, Canada. I have some people who come to see me face to face, and depending, I have an elite coaching package where people get to have me for 4 days plus 6 months of one-on-one coaching. And if I need to, I can go and work with them, with their family, with their team of people to make sure everybody is congruent together to maximize. But yeah, so I have people all over the world because Zoom allows me to do this work. And that was one of the reasons I created the Heart Freedom Method, because I had this client when I stopped being a chiropractor in Madrid, and I'm going, I need to do the mind-body work with them. But as a chiropractor, I was doing muscle testing, and I couldn't do muscle testing over the phone. So that's how I ended up, necessity is the mother of all invention. So I ended up creating the Heart Freedom Method so I could do it anywhere in the world, and I can teach it to anywhere in the world how to learn to do it for themselves.
Okay, so working one-on-one with you is possible. For me, by the way, that's always a comfort, because when I talk to somebody who I can sense and feel they have great stuff to offer, I would like to know, maybe it's like a security blanket, maybe it's my own stories. I like to know that it's possible to work one-on-one with you. That's already a big load off my chest here. But I mean, is there other books?
I have a book called Conversation with the Heart, and you can just download. You can have a digital copy, or you can order the hard copy. So conversationwiththeheart.com, you can find it there. I have the book with Jack that hopefully is going to come up very soon, called Unstuck. And I have a certification program where I can train coaches, and I have 2 psychiatrists actually who are getting trained in my method. And then you get another book, but that's just for coaches there.
So psychologists or psychiatrists can also get trained with you and add it to their
it's one more tool in their box. That's why I don't deal with pathology. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a coach, so I help people potentiate the potential. But if someone, has some mental illness or something like this, that's not my department. So I can refer them to the psychiatrist.
Well, I kind of want to go back to the beginning of our conversation when you said something that to me was very profound. You said that we think we are so much in charge and in control of everything, and yet a huge percentage of us is already pre-wired. And I said it's like being an animal in a way. I guess this work takes you from being more like an animal to being more human, because we can be in control. We just need to get rid of the pre-programmed responses that we developed in what you call stage 1.
Wow,
right?
I love listening to you. You're connecting the dots. Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. We let go of our reaction self, our reactionary self, to become more enlightened. We become conscious. We use our heart instead of our mind. Like I had the client, he was Mensa, so super smart, intelligent guy. He was a top lawyer in Canada, so cerebrally very smart. But I find people who are just cerebral, when they face a challenge that their mind cannot overcome, then they crash and become very emotional. And for 8 years, he had not been able to come out of his house. He had been depressed and couldn't work. So by helping him leaving his mind and getting into his heart instead, his life started to open up again. So when you are in your heart instead of your gut, your emotions, or your mind, your brain, when you're in your heart, this is where you find happiness. People will never find their happiness in their mind and their gut. They will only find their happiness in their heart. And once you use that, that's the spiritual self, because that's the one that connects you to love. And this is where life becomes magical.
Actually, in almost every depiction of very high IQ people, you see they very usually they lack social emotional skills, because again, I believe it's like this person, the belief is I can solve everything with my superior mind, but you can't.
No. And I find actually people are very cerebral. It's often because they were very sensitive, and to not feel all these emotions that they didn't know how to deal with, they moved into their mind so that they wouldn't feel the discomfort of the strong emotions they were experiencing before. So even them are sweethearts somewhere when we reconnect them into their hearts.
Well, the popular media sometimes gives us those, icons we can look at. Like what jumped into my head just now was Spock in Star Trek. I mean, Spock is a perfect, example. I said it's not logical. It is not, and absolutely it's not logical. But we're not Spock. We are more. We want to be more than just that.
That's for sure.
Liz, I mean, I know that I can talk to you for 5 hours here. It's really fascinating. I hope I get to meet you.
Too.
And in the meantime, once again, the website is heartfreedommethod.com.
Or drlisejanelle.com.
drlisejanelle.com. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. It was fascinating for me. I hope our viewers and listeners find it equally
Thank you very
fascinating.
much, Adiel.
Thanks for joining me today. Click the subscribe button for more video. Got a question or comment? I love questions and comments. Leave yours below. And here's another video you've got to see.